as they go back? What kind of education are we giving to our children who will be graduating, coming to the job market? That is the conversation I am having this morning with Rachel Mwangi, Head of Training and Leadership Development, Teach for Kenya, karibu sana, and John Trun Omoro, Teach for Kenya Fellow at Kayole 1 Comprehensive School. And I just come to you, Rachel, now. As schools are reopened on Monday, question is, are these schools ready? Because we know majority of them have turned into camps housing some of those who have been affected by the ongoing floods.
Thank you so much for having us this morning. And as we discuss this, I think it's really unfortunate that most of the schools might not be ready, because as you mentioned, Teach for Kenya works with underserved communities, and we place our fellows in the schools to serve as peer teachers as they teach. And we in Nairobi, Kisumu and Machakos, and in Machakos we have 3 of our schools that have been affected, and 2 of them in fact are hosting the community, people that have been affected. And also in Nairobi, like Mathare, we partner with a school, Haid Marie, Mathare 4A, in the area of Mathare 4A, and it's also acting as a camp to the families that have been affected. And so, like I'm saying, I'm not really sure that if the schools or the students are ready, and also the state of mind, because it could be even if you have not been directly affected by, or your school is up and running, but you have been displaced from your home. So we are talking about children not even having uniform, not having, we saw the floods, how it have affected the schools, the books and all that. And I think also this is an aspect of well-being also for our children and our teachers. And we are looking forward to see what the government through the Ministry of Education will guide us. And we have a few days. Tomorrow is Friday, then we have Saturday and Sunday. We are being told the rains will continue until up Sunday. So looking forward to see what direction they will guide us. But I would say we have a lot to do in terms of preparing not only the infrastructure within the school, but also the mental well-being of the children, and also the preparedness of the parents to ensure that their children can go back to school. So there's a lot of uncertainty. And as Teach for Kenya, what we are trying to do, so empowering our teachers, ensuring that we can facilitate them to be able to go back, but also checking in with the students, because I think for me, my greatest concern would be even their mental well-being before they prepare to come back.
And I come to you, John, now. Here is a question where you deal with the children on a daily basis. Congratulations for winning the nationals. I mean, that's a great feat up your sleeve. But now, as the children prepare to go back to school, because you deal with them on a daily basis in Kayole 1 now, are we really ready to have kids back in school with the ongoing floods?
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So actually, from my point of view, I can say that the children are not yet ready to come back to school. Mm-hmm. Reason being, you find that most of them are affected by that displacement, or even the flooding in certain areas. The roads are impassable, so I find it rather difficult even for us teachers going to school, because we are not finding that opportunity to at least get in touch with them, because most of them, you find that the parents now, they are at home, and they're only comfortable when their children are also comfortable at home. So I find it's still difficult on our side, both the teachers and also the parents. Yeah.
And now, Rachel, now when we talk about education, even as the ministry and the government's responsibilities to make sure that kids get education, now the question now that comes in is the quality of education. We know right now that the children are not in a good space. Everyone in this country is not in a good space as we speak right now. That is psychosocially, physically, based on the ongoing floods that we continue to experience in the country. Now, as we plan to transition kids to go back to school, in terms of psychosocial support, both to parents to be able to release the children to go back to school, because a parent would say, I'm not letting my kid go back to school because it would rain. I'm not sure they would come back. So in terms of preparing parents, preparing the children to go back to school, and even teachers, because they're stakeholders, what should the government do?
I am a parent, and I have 3 children. 2 of them are supposed to go back to school, and I agree with you. Even in my school, where my students go, they asked us to. They notified us that the opening of the school is 6. No communication has been given. And between where I stay and where these children go to school, the roads have been affected. So as a parent, I agree with Trun. I feel I'm not very sure if I would want my children to go back. So I think what the government should do, one, involve all the stakeholders. Like what we are doing as Teach for Kenya, having meetings with our teachers there to know how they are as individuals, their state of well-being and their families, because when a teacher is well and their family is okay, then they will also be able to serve. And then also, like the government is doing, assessing the areas that have been affected. And my suggestion would be, they had initially suggested that we can do a need-based analysis on the regions. I know like Kisumu, most of our schools have not been affected. Western is also a bit okay. So if we can be able to see how can we transition children back to school, but by analyzing the needs that they have and how much they have been affected, to ensure that we go back to school slowly, but in phases, depending on the regions and how they have been hit. Because I agree with you, again, at the end of the day, they need to go back to school and learn, but their social well-being is key. So incorporating, like working with the chief, working with the head teachers, working with the community, to assessing and seeing, is the school habitable? If the books have been destroyed, so how quick are we able to work to ensure that these facilities have been taken back to the school? So I would say it should be a process depending on the region. I think Nairobi has been hardest hit, and most of the schools have been affected. So I don't know how the government will really support us in ensuring that at least Nairobi we are taken care of and we categorize. Like for our schools, Mathare Hidmane, like I mentioned, so we have parents there. So when you tell these parents to evacuate, unless you're showing them an alternative place where they can stay, and then when we are saying they do not have uniforms, so are the schools also thinking of a way, like the first term, being a bit ease on parents, so that if anyone does not have uniform, they can still come come to school with their home clothes and also with the books.
And now, John, as we transition both parents, we have teachers like yourself and the children go back to school. There is an aspect of holistic education that these kids need to get. And here's a question where, as opposed to just learning to pass, we've seen that even some of the initiatives being given to children is to just play, to just allow them to just be themselves even in their toughest situation. Now, in school, how important is it to have that aspect as part of curriculum for children to just be children, letting them learn who they are?
Yeah, so I think it is very relevant for us, actually facilitators and even policy makers, that let's try and focus on also the non-academic outcomes. Not just focusing on the academic outcomes, because generally, at the end of the day, that learner is supposed to go into the community and at least help to solve a certain problem within that community. And that is why even as a Teach for Kenya, one of our core values that we focus on is that we try to ensure that that learner, by the age of maybe 25 years, he or she will be able to be relevant with the digital skills that are in place during that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I come to Faith now. As Rachel, sorry, as we have this discussion now, let's now talk about the education and the quality that there needs to be there. And we know right now we are into the CBC curriculum.
Sure.
And CBC now gives an opportunity for children to be allowed to be themselves. If you want to be a plumber, there is all that is being given into this space, which then brings the question of Teach for Kenya is encouraging your cohorts of teachers, being not just trained teachers, but you have lawyers who come in to teach, you have engineers. How significant is that to these children? And at the age of 25, do you think by then they would have known, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a journalist?
Yes, and I think this is really key for us. Like you mentioned, we have 140 fellows that we have placed in 49 schools in Nairobi, Kisumu, and Machakos. And we recruit young graduates from diverse backgrounds who are placed in schools to support as peer teachers. And they come from diverse backgrounds. Like Trun here is an economist. We have people who have done sciences. We have people who have done business. And like you said, we have lawyers. So our model and the framework that we use as Teach for Kenya is something we call teaching as collective leadership. So not only focusing on giving these children the skills like we expect, that's the mastery skills like mathematics, language, and science, but we also keen on developing them as leaders and ensuring that they have the skills that they need even when they get to 25 years, where they will decide the future that they want for themselves. And we have been key. Like this year and last year, we have been focusing on developing children to become communicators, collaborators, to show empathy even as they learn. And maybe a significant example, like you're saying, how will we help these students really know who they are and what they want when they get of age? And it has to start now. So last year we hosted a conference, that's the global conference, and we hosted 62 nations who came here at Ole Sereni, 700 delegates. And because Teach for Kenya is under a global organization called Teach for All, so our vision is one. In each country, you contextualize to ensure that you give quality education to the children in that country. So we have been keen in ensuring that our children can communicate, can be part of the policy makers, because if we are saying they are the leaders, if they need to know who they are, then we have to give them that opportunity. So during the conference, we had breakout rooms, and I know last year climate education was really a big thing. So we had one of our students being part of the panel, and she was discussing how climate education has affected her in Kwajenga slum and Mukuru, how it has affected her. And it was really nice to see an 11-year-old expressing herself before 700 people and sharing her insight and her contribution in the process. And that's why we have people like Trun. They can look up to them. So if I want to be an accountant, Trun is an example. And the beauty that our fellows are young and they are vibrant and they bring life into the schools even as they work together with the system teachers that are there. So I think that is really something that we are keen on as Teach for Kenya.
Now, Trun as a beautiful name, by the way. Now, Trun, as we have this discussion on your likes going into education, now here's a question where you are a money person, but while in school, you are a drama teacher. You know, those are two things that someone would say don't go together, but they go together in your life. Now, when you are with these children, you are training them to go to the drama, the reason to drama. I'm meant to understand you have trophies up your sleeve. Now, how important is that for the children when you engage with them in terms of education? How do they take that?
Yeah, just to begin, having a background in economics, how I tend to view these learners' talent, I view it as a very important resource. And going into like encouraging them, like regularly meeting them in the evening and maybe practicing these talents in music, drama. Like I see like that's a perfect opportunity to develop that leadership skills in them. And then also I look at it as a perfect opportunity also to develop the collaboration skills as they work in groups. So I find that even in as much as they are exposed to this world of talent development, they are overall, at the end of the day, the outcomes that we are likely to realize are those of leadership. So that when they enter into the community, while they grow up, they'll be able to solve certain problems around them. Yeah.
And Rachel, just to have the scholars come to these schools to be able to engage with the children, the students, it is a question of I want to be, say, a lawyer, and I have a lawyer who's in my school to teach me. I have someone to look up to. Some of us wanted to be pilots. You know, there are those who wanted to be presidents. They've never gotten an opportunity to meet these people, to encourage them in terms of just having mentors to help them in cultivating their dreams. How important is that to these developing children?
I think it's really important, and we are in an era where we are helping our students really identify who they are at a tender age. And I think the best thing that any person who is in the education world, that's either being a teacher or even in regards to the kind of curriculum that we have, and I really appreciate CBC because it's competence-based curriculum where we are trying to strengthen our children and bring out our skills, but now the aspect of them being able to identify as young as they are. So that means, yes, we need the aspect of mentors, but also we need an aspect of changing their mindset in how they see themselves. And how we practically do that. So like I mentioned, so we use the framework of teaching as collective leadership. So one of the aspects is the lenses in which you see yourself. So it is important for Tron, even as he teaches, to see himself as a learner and as a facilitator, but allow the children to come out as the leaders within the class. And how can that be done practically? Like, for example, when you introduce a topic, like let's assume we are doing maths and we are learning about, or maybe let's talk about maybe maps. And it's a geography or a creative lesson. So just allowing the students to dive in more. I know the traditional way, I'll come and teach about maps and I will put them up and I will show them different parts of the country. But how is that now relevant to me as a person? How are we using Google Maps? I came here using Bolt and using Google Maps, and it brought me. So how do we help our children really be able to connect the knowledge that they are getting with the real life scenarios around them, and then in the process they're able to identify and align their passions with what they love. And that's why I am happy that we have 140 people who have come from different backgrounds and are able to share these experiences with the children. I also mentioned something that is also very keen for us. When, like Trun, his capstone project is drama and art, and he scooped the national level, at the national levels, a trophy when they were at Embu. And what we challenge them is, even as you teach the children, identify the challenge within that community. Like for him, he realized children have talent, but this talent is untapped. And that within the 2 years that I'm in that school, I have the ability to help these children see themselves beyond maths, beyond science, that they can do. He didn't mention, but he was able to do also scripted media. In fact, for him, they recorded, then they were presenting through media, even in Embu. And they shoot the video together with the children. And even the aspect of when you co-create the work with the children, you create like the graphics with the children, let them be involved in the process. And then as a teacher now, it's your responsibility to be able to see, in my class I have scientists, I have people in drama, so how do we make everyone to feel they are part of your lesson? And we do that by investing in our fellows. Before they go to the schools, we do an intensive 6 weeks training, which is residential. So we train you on leadership, we train you on policy, we train you on pedagogy because it is important, and we also train you on well-being because that's a very key aspect. So I think for me, it's the mindset that the teacher has. And if you change that lens and you help them see because at the end of the day, I think for me as an educator, how do I really bring out the full potential of every child in my class, leaving no one behind?
Now, Trun, here's a question where the cohort, let me say, the students that we're dealing right now are technologically savvy. These are children who probably know how to use mobile phones better than us. They're children who, when they're given these machines and whatnot, they're able to find their way around it. And as a teacher, you're coming into a surrounding of children who are eager to learn, eager to know more, and you're there to equally give your advice and guide where necessary and make sure that they are the best that they can be. So when you sit down with these children, you know, they say millennials dealing with Gen Zs is difficult. Now, the generation you're dealing with is not even the Gen Zs. Those are here alphas. How is it for you?
So first of all, there's this aspect of being connected to them. Because the moment you connect with this learner, they'll be able to expel whatever they have in them. So for instance, what we are saying is that each and every learner has a different ability. But it's now upon the facilitator to identify that ability in that learner. And that is why we are saying that the moment you have that transformed teacher, then the classroom also will be transformed classroom. Then when you have that transformed classroom, then we'll be having a transformed student who is also a leader. And at the end of the day, we will be having a transformed community. So connecting with these learners, that is one way through which you will identify those talents and abilities that they have. Rather than just sitting down, coming to class, teaching and learning, then going back home. What about if we engage them in the other aspect of education, so that they develop that empathy or even the leadership part of it? Yeah.
That is John Trun Omoro, Teach for Kenya Fellow at Kayole 1 Comprehensive School, and Rachel Mwangi, Head of Training and Leadership Development, Teach for Kenya. As they say, all we need is a transformed teacher, a transformed student, which will in turn have a transformed classroom. All these being put in place to make sure that the quality of education in this country is up to par and also onto the global standards. Ladies and gentlemen, wish you the very best in the good job that you're doing. We shall be having this conversation a little bit later. But now some political leaders and activist organizations have expressed concerns about the condition of the aircraft flying leaders across the country now. The leaders want a thorough investigation into the recent KDF helicopter accident, which claimed the life of Military Chief General Francis Ogola and 9 other military officers. Human rights activist Daniel Ongoto has urged the government to task its professionals with improving the state of the aircraft to prevent future crashes.
Mambo ya air crashes